So I just pre-ordered the Sony Fx30, and in today's video, I'm gonna discuss why I made that decision and also try to help you decide whether or not this is the right camera for you if it's something that you're considering. So to give you a little bit of context about myself up front and why I decided to make this decision, I'm a documentary filmmaker and I often find myself filming in locations that either would be really challenging or really stressful to have a large camera package with me. I own and use the Sony A7S3, and I've used it for the last 2 years since the initial launch of that camera. And I've absolutely loved it, and it has definitely filled in that need for my use case where it has the same image quality as something like an FX6, but it's in a small mirrorless form factor. And so to give you an example, I just got done producing a documentary in West Africa, and with the amount of travel and having to check gear through customs and having something like an FX6 or an FX9 with me kind of on location in these remote areas just would be a huge hassle and a lot of stress, and honestly, while I was there, would probably draw some unwanted attention. Having a mirrorless camera honestly makes me look more like a tourist than a journalist, and even still, I get some kind of just weird looks or frustrated looks that I have a camera. And so when I'm shooting in these locations, whether it's West Africa or the Congo or the Middle East, having a small package and a small form factor that is as good or if not better than some of these bigger cameras, it is a huge help. And so for me, having a B camera that can work alongside my A7S3 is, I think, something that's going to be really, really helpful. So for me, I plan to use the FX30 as a B camera. I think that its feature set is, at least on paper, is really impressive. And I would imagine that the image quality from Sony is going to be really good as well. And so having something that can either be with another camera operator that I don't have to pay to rent an additional camera, I think is a big deal, but also having something that is small and light enough to be on a gimbal or ready to go on a tripod or in a different setup, I think is going to make a big difference. And with the price point that it is at just around $2,000, I think it's only going to take a handful of shoots to be able to pay this off as a rental to myself. Just a quick note on the A7S3 that I own and the FX3, which I've used a bunch as well. It is really hard to understate how good these cameras are and how good their sensors are. There's a ton of dynamic range, the colors look amazing, the slow motion frame rates are a really nice feature, and it's in just an incredible full frame, low light capable sensor. And so I think that what Sony is doing in these cameras and in their lineup is super impressive. It's given me the confidence to continue to invest in Sony and to use their products. It's something that I prefer to take with me when I'm traveling, and it's something that I know that can kind of scale, whether it's kind of a small run and gun project in the middle of Africa or the Middle East, or it's something that I'm gonna put a Ninja 5 with and record a commercial in a raw codec. It just has some scalability and flexibility, and I am excited to see what this camera, the FX30, is going to be able to do in that same regard. I think that having something at this price point with potentially almost as good of image quality is super exciting. I think that it really does lower kind of the barrier for entry for a lot of people to have kind of a high-end looking image. And not only does that mean like stuff overall is going to look better, but I think when more and more things, more and more stories and projects look really nice, the kind of differentiating factors are going to actually be the story and the storytelling abilities of the people behind the camera. And so for me, it's kind of a fun challenge because not only is it a really good time to be a filmmaker, but I think it frees me up to sort of think less about does the exposure have to be perfect right down to the third of a stop, because I don't have like a thin 8-bit codec that I'm having to worry about. I can really just focus on, is the lighting good? Does the composition look good? Are those things serving the story? Because I know ultimately I'm gonna be able to push and pull the colors and have just a really fantastic looking image. Now, I think that brings me nicely to just the fact that this camera really is meant to be an A camera for most people who are looking to kind of step up from, kind of that entry level, cheaper kind of camera to something that has a really nice codec, has a really nice body with some good features. And now I haven't used the FX30 yet, obviously, but I've worked with the FX3 on a very regular basis, and I can honestly say that that is just a great all-in-one package. And probably the only features that the FX3 are missing are like a built-in ND filter, which I understand there's some limitations there with the IBIS, and an EVF. So I think kind of with that in mind, I think the FX30, being that it's in the same body style, it's gonna be really easy to work with. It's gonna be really flexible to be able to kind of scale up if you wanted to add an Atomos recorder and kind of get a raw codec out of it. But it's also small enough that you can throw it on a gimbal, you can add the top handle, have XLR connections, and I think it's gonna be a really good kind of scalable and flexible option for someone to be able to come in at a really affordable, relatively speaking, price point and kind of be able to grow with the camera and not necessarily have to worry about, do I need to purchase this really high-end, expensive video or cinema camera to be able to get a really good looking image. And I think if it's anywhere close to what the A7S3 and the FX3 can give us, I think it is just really exciting and is going to mean good things for everybody, whether you're looking at it as a B camera or an A camera. Like I said, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be doing a bunch of videos on this channel about the FX30. I'll be doing some first impressions videos, hopefully some different tutorials and reviews, as well as comparing it to the cameras I work with, being the A7S3 and FX3. So if any of that interests you, be sure to subscribe and follow along to catch that content. And as well, I would love it if you would hit the like button below. And as always, thanks again, and I will catch you guys in the next one.